Hey friends, hope you're doing well. I heard John Mellencamp had a rough night in Cleveland the other night. I figured I'd talk about it a little bit. Imagine we've all had this experience where you pay a lot of money to go to a show and somebody is sitting right next to you and they just won't shut up. And there's this artist that you really dig that you paid a lot of money to enjoy, and you're just sitting next to somebody who's just, going on about whatever. And it ruins the evening for you. And it's not such a big deal when it's a big, loud, raucous concert, a big, loud rock band putting on the rock show. You don't notice that stuff. But when things get really quiet, and you're witnessing something intimate, it's rough, and it sounds like Mellencamp is trying to do a little more stripped down. At least a portion of his set is just him playing acoustic. And some folks in Cleveland are giving him a hard time. This is from the Cleveland Scene, and written by Eric Heisig. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Eric. It says John Mellencamp's show at Connor Place nearly derailed by boorish audience members. Am I pronouncing that right? Boorish, boorish audience members. It says Mellencamp brought some performative elements to a 2-hour set filled with some of his best-known songs. John Mellencamp's audience at the Connor Place Thursday night, which included the type of loud and buffoonish concert goers for which Cleveland is becoming known, should consider themselves lucky that he finished the show. Ouch. I hope that's not true, that Cleveland's becoming known for buffoonish concert goers. It says, but it all could have easily ended early. Signs posted in the lobby said, this show respects theater etiquette, and early on, Mellencamp told the crowd that I don't like people screaming from the effing audience. Later, as people continued talking, and after a boorish concert goer yelled at him to play the effing music, when he dared to say something that could be construed as criticizing the U.S., he had enough. And this is Mellencamp. He says, listen, hey, you guys, if these people don't shut the F up, I'm just going to leave, okay? Because I'm not used to this crap. Look, guys, if I wanted to play in this type of drunken environment, I'd play outside or I'd play in an arena. Have you been to that show where everything just kind of went bad? Tell me down below. What were the shows that you remember going to when you wished the audience would shut the hell up, or when you wish the performer would shut the hell up? I have a lot of opinions about this kind of thing, and I'm going to say right up front that my knee-jerk reaction is the same knee-jerk reaction that you are probably having right now, where it's not good for the artist to start cussing the audience. The audience that, remember, that just paid a lot of money to come and be entertained and have a good time, the person who digs their music. It's not good, so I feel like in these situations everybody loses. But if you're the artist and you're in that situation and you have like a couple thousand people there ready to wanting to have a good time, and there might be 10 of those people who are doing everything they can to just ruin everybody's time, by derailing it or making it about them, trying to get attention, or just being completely oblivious that they're the loud person in the room, the loud, obnoxious person in the room. We've all been in those, rooms. Honestly, it's amazing that you could get 2,000 people together and not have a bunch of people like that, wander in also. So when you're the artist in that situation, this is what, I don't think people think about this. There's a moment when you realize there are people that are kind of running it for the others, and you feel like you should advocate on behalf of all of the people who paid their hard money to hear you and the show and all of that. And so you want to say something. Now, Mellencamp has never been known to be subtle about things when he says something. So he's gonna, tell them to shut the F up. And then that becomes headlines and it looks bad. but I've been to shows when I wished, I wish that the performer would say something. So like, shut up, guys. These people paid money, to hear these songs, not to hear you talking about what happened. I've been to those shows, and they actually said in this Cleveland Scene article, they're like, where's the venue? Why don't people from the venue walk over and say, shut up, the promoters? As an artist, I always wish the promoter would do that, would step in, but they don't, a lot of times they just don't want to. I don't know whether people are buying tickets expecting Mellencamp to play the big rock show with all the anthems and all that. And maybe that's part of the case, and then when they get there, they're bored because it's the quiet Mellencamp that they didn't want. I've been to a bunch of shows like this where I remember seeing Springsteen in the 90s, and he was doing the Ghost of Tom Joad tour. That's the most I've ever paid for a concert ticket. I believe it was $37 in 1995. That seemed like a lot of money. That's the most I've ever paid. I even made a video about it somewhere on this channel a couple years ago. But the audience, he's playing solo acoustic. And it's like, yes, this is everything I want from Springsteen. This is it. Him with a guitar. And the audience is just kind of slowly, this roar starts rising, that low hum turns into a roar of people just talking to each other while Bruce Springsteen's playing right there. They paid good money to hear Springsteen, and now I'm hearing all these people talking around me. And I remember Springsteen, this is at the Murrah Theater in Indianapolis, and he'd say like after a couple songs, hey guys, if you could keep it down, man, people paid for the show. And he's trying to be cool about it. He's not going full Mellencamp on it. Never go full Mellencamp. People will be making fun of Mellencamp for behaving like this, but that's a lot of the reason a lot of people like Waylon and stuff like that, is they're not going to put up with that crap, And then, Mellencamp's cut from that same cloth, and he's just going to say it. But Springsteen was trying to be a lot more diplomatic about it. So after like every 3 or 4 songs, it'd get loud again. And he'd like, hey guys, if you could keep it down. And then it would get quiet. And then it would come back up. And it just sucked. And that was in 1995, before everybody was online, before Facebook was targeting you with every little thing to get your attention, before TikTok. People still had an attention span in 1995. And, I'd like to say there was this moment in history when 500,000 people, 500,000 people sat quietly and enjoyed Leonard Cohen, at Woodstock. He sat there. Just imagine how much effort it would take for an audience to like really tune in and dig Leonard Cohen. I love Leonard Cohen. People sat there quietly, enjoyed it. Nobody held up their phone. Nobody had to check in on Instagram and show everybody that they were there and walk up to the stage and take a picture of themselves with their back to the performer. We used to have that, but we've seen that go away in our lifetime. And it's not everybody, but it's like a few people that, I don't know, it's kind of amazing that you're able to still go to shows and there's 100 people there and everybody's really into it. And I sometimes think of a show as you're going to, you have a boat that's like in the muddy beach, and everybody's trying to pull that boat out into the water so you guys can go for a boat ride and have a good time. Like the audience and the performer is all pulling, trying to get that boat out into the water so you can really do what you came there to do. But there's a few people that decide they're gonna, try to trip everybody when they're pushing. They're gonna try to push back the opposite direction, just get in the way and mess the whole thing up so you can't, But a show is a collective experience with people working in the same direction. And sounds like Mellencamp had a rough night. And I don't know whether you have to advertise more. I think a lot of it, this is my opinion, if you're an artist the size of Mellencamp, you've had like mainstream pop success. So there are a lot of people who might not be the completely rabid music fans who are way down the rabbit hole and not know, we'll say know a lot about music. There's like more surface level fans that'll be like, yeah, I want to hear Jack and Diane. Let's go pay to, see the Coug. And they show up, and they're mixed in with a lot of people who have a much deeper appreciation of him and in acoustic music in general. Maybe you don't get that if there's 800 people at a John Prine show. He never had the big mass success and the pop hits, so those people have been there, and there's a certain level of initiation, and they also, if you go see Guy Clark, I saw Guy Clark play. I opened for Guy Clark first time I ever played in England. I opened for him in Gateshead, or across the river from Newcastle. It's at least 2,000 people there. They sat completely silent, completely silent. It's Guy Clark playing these, narrative-driven, acoustic, finger-picking type songs, great songs, and people were dead quiet. It was amazing. But Guy Clark never had that big mainstream success or hit that would make more pedestrian people come in with a surface level understanding. So I think Mellencamp probably wants to do that kind of thing, but he's had such success that it comes with some baggage. I don't know. It's just not a good look when somebody who's, won the musical lottery decides to start giving his fans hell and all that. But I get it. I get it. I personally wouldn't want to tell the audience. I might want to tell the audience to shut the F up, but I would try to make it a joke. And there's also another thing floating around today I saw of someone saying, rooting for Jack and Diane or whatever while he's trying to do something else, and I love you or something like that. And he gives like a speech about how, we're not going to do that. Don't be yelling out or whatever. And thank you. He ends it with thank you. So I kind of figure he gets a little bit of this. And he's also getting some press from this that he probably wasn't getting from his record. So maybe there's some of that. It's not a complete bad thing. I think the guy getting upset at Mellencamp for whatever he was talking about his views of the world, you kind of have to expect a little bit of that with Mellencamp. It's not a surprise. I don't know why. You pay a lot of money to go to that show. It's weird that you know enough and care enough about him to pay that much money, but you don't know enough to expect a little bit of that. I'm guessing if I went and saw Ted Nugent, it would probably be expensive, and I should expect, him to go off on some crap that I don't care to hear. That's just kind of baked into it. You shouldn't be that surprised about it. But I can't say I would ever go see Ted Nugent. So, I saw Mellencamp's tour ends in South Bend, and I haven't seen him since the '80s. I was thinking I'd kind of like to go up there and maybe see that show and see what it's like. The first time I saw him in person, I was working at Greenwood Mall on the south side of Indianapolis, like south of Indianapolis. And I was probably 15 or 16 years old. And Jack and Diane Hurt So Good had just hit. And his star was like rising. And I remember I had this job, terrible job, one of many terrible jobs I had, where they set up an above ground pool in the mall. They didn't fill it with water, but they paid me $3.35 an hour to walk in circles around that pool with a clipboard. And if anybody just so much as glanced at it, I was supposed to walk up to them and, hey, would you like to receive some information about these pools? And then I would take down their information if they would give it, and I would mail it, or I would send it to somebody, and then they would like call them and try to sell them a damn pool. and crappy pools. The biggest question everybody asked was, well, I'm not really interested in an above ground pool. Could you tell me about, you guys make in-ground pools? And I was supposed to tell them, well, actually what we do is we set this pool in the ground. I'm told to tell them that when it wasn't true. Terrible job. Anyway, I'm doing that one day. I did it for like a month and quit and went on to some even worse job. But it was the last time I was in a mall probably too. But I'm standing there doing this thing, and I look way off in the distance. It's like a Tuesday. Nobody's in there, really empty. And I see this guy walking towards me, and he's like walking in, and it gets closer. I'm like, that's John Mellencamp. And I mean, he had the jean jacket, he had the ripped up jeans, and he looked just like he looked in like the Hurt So Good video or whatever, kind of pseudo biker looking face. Looked really, really cool. And he's kind of walking up, and he looked at me and he smiled. And I said, could I interest you for some information about these pools? And he says, oh man, I couldn't afford a swimming pool. Wish I could though. I'm like, all right, man, have a good one. And he walked off and gave me a little finger gun or something. And I'm like, that's cool, man. That's John Mellencamp. Was John Cougar at the time. That was cool. 15, 16-year-old kid. That was my little interaction. About 10 minutes later, you could hear somebody way far away echoing through the mall, somebody yelling, that's John Cougar. And it's just big, loud voice. And then you hear other people, what? John Cougar. All these people, voices. And then you kind of see him 5 minutes later walking back by real fast, trying to get out of there. And then a bunch of people, hey, back behind him. And he kind of like looked at me, rolled his eyes as he went by. But it was just a glimpse of the ride that he was just stepping onto. That was the first time. And it was pretty exciting to go to school and like, hey man, guess who I saw at the mall? And I remember seeing him on an award show that year in the audience. And award shows are like so terrible. I mean, so terrible. And everybody's got their fancy clothes and they look so, there's a fakeness to the whole thing. Like I cringe for anybody who's ever on that like red carpet thing, getting their picture taken. It's just like, what's this got to do with music or anything? And I remember they showed an audience shot, and there's in the audience, when you say audience, these are probably all performers. But I remember seeing Mellencamp sitting with Mitch Ryder, and everybody around them's got their tuxedos on, and they were wearing those denim jackets, the ripped out jeans and all of that. And I was like, whoa, it just seemed so cool. Mellencamp and Mitch Ryder hanging out. I don't know what year that would have been, 82, 4, somewhere in there. And then they had the deal where MTV came to Bloomington when he was playing IU's football stadium. I mean, he was really, really blowing up and big, and they had a deal where you could win a pink house in Bloomington or somewhere in there. I should find out where that house is. But they gave away a pink house. And I remember going to the stadium, and it was pretty amazing to see somebody from Indiana playing to this big. And he was really playing, a lot of the songs that you think of the great stuff, like right then. His band was great. Great band of like a bunch of people that played the bars in Indiana. And I don't know, just it was a really, really nice moment. And that might have been the last time I remember seeing him. But it was just a nice little, and as a kid, it was a nice moment. And I also, squirrels are coming up on me back here. Why don't you tell me, have you ever seen Mellencamp live? Have you seen him on this tour? Is it what you would expect it to be? If you go see Mellencamp, are you expecting, to hear I guess he plays a lot of the hits. It's just he's got so many. You want to play some of the new record. But is it what you would expect? And I definitely want to hear about if there are people who have ruined the concert for you. There's a lot of those folks out there. And Tell me down in the comments. And what's your favorite Mellencamp songs? It's impossible for me to hear Lonely Old Night and not turn it up when I'm going down the road. Hand to Hold On To. There's a lot of stuff. And I'm the guy at the concert where if he starts playing Jackie Brown, is this your life, Jackie Brown? That first line, whatever it is, I might be like, woo, yeah, or something like that. I don't think that's what would piss him off. I don't think that's what he's talking about. I think he's having a hard time dealing with drunks that came expecting a different show, but I don't know. I don't know. Tell me down below, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Much love to you.